Hello, sippers. I'm Martia,
I'm Demetrius.
And I'm Renee.
and welcome to this week's episode of Sip and Unwine True Crime Podcast. Hey, ladies. Hey, sippers.
Hey guys.
Woo!
How are
We
you?
back.
How are you ladies
Ladies.
doing?
I'm ready for another episode. I'm here.
Me
I know. I'm
too.
Hey.
excited.
Happy to be back as
Right.
always.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Gosh, season 3. We doing it, y'all.
Crazy, right? Exactly.
We out here in
Okay,
these streets.
sippers. Yes, we are here. All right, sippers, if you didn't already know, although we are a true crime podcast, we also discuss several other topics. So please make sure you keep listening after our case discussion because we'll have a few other segments you don't want to miss. All right, ladies, so let me tell the sippers what we're sipping on for this episode. Our featured drink is called Frozen Hula Hoop, and sippers, you've got to try it. This fun drink consists of 8 ingredients, including fruit juice, rum, and red wine. It does take a little bit of work, but it's a frozen drink, and it's definitely worth the effort, so trust me, go ahead and mix it up. I'll
You already
post a
know I love my
recipe.
rum.
I like the name.
Yes.
I
I
just like
love
the name
rum.
of it.
Yeah, and it tastes really good. It tastes, I
Yeah.
mean, I love a good frozen drink. So I'll post the drink on our social media pages. And if you make it, sippers, please be sure you tag us.
Please do so. We would love to see it.
Now, before I begin speaking on this case, I want to acknowledge the people that these crimes have left a lasting impact on. We want to send our heartfelt sympathy to not only the survivors, but also the loved ones and friends of all the victims we are about to discuss. Okay, ladies and sippers. So before I get started, let me just tell you, this case is in the category of unsolved and unusual. It's one of those cases that's up there for me with the Tupac case, the Biggie case, the John Benet Ramsey case. It's one of those cases where when I first heard about it, it just really stuck with me. And I've been hoping for a solved case ever since the crime happened. And also, the case takes place in Georgia.
This
Sippers,
is gonna be interesting. Let's get into this.
yeah, it
You know,
is.
we've been sticking around in Georgia.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
I have to say, not really on purpose, but at the same time, I guess because we just hear about a lot of news here because this is where we live, it's just a by chance thing, I guess. But all right, ladies and sippers, so today's case takes us back to May 2014 and over to a place called Lake Oconee, which is right near a small town called Eatonton, Georgia. Eatonton is located about 80 miles east of Atlanta. So today I'm going to discuss the unsolved and unusual case of Russell and Shirley Dermond. Do those names sound familiar to you, ladies?
They don't. I don't recognize that.
All right.
Let me Google.
See. Martia's about to let you be your Googler right now. I'll tell you.
Okay.
Exactly. All right. So Russell Joseph Dermond was a native of Hackensack, New Jersey, and he served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. In the early years of his career, Russell worked in the information systems and data processing industry. A young Shirley Wilcox was a graduate of Barnard College, a private women's liberal arts college in New York City. Russell and Shirley were married on December 15, 1950. The couple would go on to have 4 children and a total of 9 grandchildren. Shirley spent years as a stay-at-home mom, while Russell worked in the fast food industry for many, many years. He owned several Hardee's around the Atlanta area. Russell retired from that industry back in 1994. After retirement, the couple moved out to Lake Oconee into a gated community where they would enjoy a nice, relaxing lifestyle. The Dermonds spent a lot of time hanging out together as well as with their friends and family. The duo were avid churchgoers, and the couple had been married for 68 years. The Dermonds had a real busy lifestyle, so it is no surprise after they hadn't been seen or heard from in several days, there was cause for concern amongst family and friends. The last day anyone had seen or heard from the couple was on May 1st, 2014. On that day, Russell was seen running errands in Eatonton, and the couple also spoke with one of their sons, Brad, on the phone that day. But on May 6th, some neighbors decided to do a welfare check after the Dermonds hadn't returned any of their phone calls. The couple was supposed to have gone to a Kentucky Derby party 3 days prior, but the pair never showed up. The neighbors approached the front porch of the Dermonds' home, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The neighbors made their way through the home and into the garage. It was there where they found 88-year-old Russell slumped down behind one of the couple's cars.
Oh my God.
His body had been decapitated and his head was missing.
Oh, I do remember hearing this a little
Yes.
while ago. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I don't
Yes.
remember this.
Yes.
Hmm.
So yeah, Russell's head was missing and his wife Shirley was also missing. The murder did not appear to be a robbery or a robbery gone wrong because investigators saw no signs of forced entry. The house was immaculate. The only things out of place were the couple's unmade bed and one incomplete crossword puzzles on the kitchen table. That's kind of eerie. You know, like
Yeah.
walking
Oh
into
my
somebody's
gosh.
house and it's like they were just here, you
Right,
know?
right, right. Oof.
Investigators said nothing was stolen from the home and everything seemed to be in its place. Nothing was disturbed from what they could tell. It was later determined that Russell was deceased before he was decapitated, but the manner of how he died would remain a mystery. It was speculated that perhaps he was shot in the head, but that theory could never be confirmed.
I was about to say, how would they know that? Like how?
They really couldn't confirm it,
Yeah, like
but
what? I was just
they're
wondering, like, how
saying
you would you even come to that conclusion if you don't
Right.
even have the head? That's kind
exactly.
of
Yeah.
weird. Wow.
I guess they're saying because the gunpowder residue was found on his collar,
Oh,
maybe they're
okay.
drawing that
Okay.
conclusion. The Putnam County Sheriff at the time, Howard Sills, was quoted as saying, "This is the most baffling case we've ever worked." As investigators were trying to piece together who killed Russell and why, they still had no idea where Shirley was or what may have happened to her. Investigators dragged nearby Lake Oconee and used a robot to search the deep areas. Investigators also searched the woods, but there was no sign of Shirley Dermond. Now, when I post about the story, I'll definitely include pictures, but the couple's home backed up to Lake Oconee. So their
Oh.
backyard was a
Oh,
part of Lake
wow.
Oconee, right?
Hmm.
Okay.
So the couple even had a boat dock in the back as well, but they sold their boat. But they actually had access to the lake through the backyard. So on May 16th, approximately 10 days after Russell was found, 87-year-old Shirley's body was discovered by two fishermen floating on Lake Oconee about 6 miles away from the couple's home. Her body was found tangled up near some trees and brush, and it is estimated that both Shirley and Russell were killed somewhere between the days of May 1st and May 5th. An autopsy would later reveal that Shirley had been killed by blunt force trauma to the head with an object such as a hammer, and her wounds were deep, and they determined that the attack was very brutal. They never found any murder weapons. They never found a gun. They never found a hammer or anything. Two large cinder blocks weighing 30 pounds each were tied to Shirley's body. The blocks were covered in some sort of nylon synthetic type bag. Investigators pointed out that the killer or killers were sloppy, due in part because they probably thought those cinder blocks would keep a body submerged forever. Well, that wasn't the case. Plus the fact that the killer or killers moved the body several miles down the lake, risking getting caught in that process. Investigators will also include that the killer or killers arrived to the Dermond home via boat, which would explain why nothing strange was spotted on security camera footage from the entrance to the gated community. But I do want to note here that I did see one source say that there was no camera footage because camera footage at the gated community, the source said that the camera footage had been knocked out because of a storm a few days prior.
Oh,
So
wow.
Oh man.
Likely
yeah,
likely story, right?
exactly, right? So it is possible that maybe they do have footage from that week. So I wanted to point that out. Whether they have footage from during the crime or not is unclear, but no doubt the perpetrators were familiar with how to navigate that neighborhood and that water, seeing as how the Dermond's home overlooks a narrow peninsula off of Lake Oconee. Investigators said the killers, quote, knew exactly where they were going and how to get there. The perpetrators most likely navigated the lake after dark. One thing the investigators could not determine was a motive for this horrific crime. Everyone who knew the Dermonds were being looked at early on during the investigation. Russell and Shirley have 3 adult children. They did lose a son years prior.
Wow.
So they have a daughter who lived in North Carolina at the time of the murders, and they had 2 sons who were living in Florida when the crime occurred. It was determined that none of the children were in the area during the time the crime was committed, and there was no evidence pointing to the possibility that any of them had paid someone to murder their parents. Speculation is that Russell and Shirley knew at least one or both of their killers because there was no sign of a struggle or forced entry into the home.
Yeah, and that's what I was about to say. That it must be somebody that they know because I mean, they don't. Nobody stole anything, right? Like everything
Exactly.
was the way it was at their house,
Exactly. They said
and
the house
then
was immaculate.
and then doing that, it just seems so personal. Whatever they had going on.
Exactly.
You know,
Right.
who
Yeah.
takes the time to chop off somebody's head like afterwards? It just seems it's something else.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And
You're
they
really
hid
mad.
the wife's body too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so there's also speculation that the couple might have been killed elsewhere because there wasn't much blood at the crime scene.
See, that's too much work
It
for
is
just to
a
be
lot of work.
random. Like,
Right.
yeah, that's a lot of work.
Investigators said Russell's head had to have been removed post-mortem because the wound wasn't spurting blood everywhere. They said it was a clean cut and the killer knew what he was doing.
Yeah, so that's personal right there. Because after he's
Exactly.
dead, then you do that.
Right.
And you can't just do it just with like a regular knife, like a knife that's in the kitchen. You
Exactly.
have to have tools
You do.
to do that.
And I don't know if I saw this in a movie or something, so this is not facts, sippers.
Mm-hmm.
Don't they say, like, if the head is cut off, it's about the person knows the killer, like they saw the killer,
No, I
and they
didn't hear that
Yes,
before, but
that's
it
cover
what
makes
it,
it is.
sense.
either cover the
9
head or
times
cut the
out of
head
10, they
off.
know they're right.
Yeah,
Cutting your head off seems so extreme, though.
it does.
Because that
And like you
that's
said, it's a lot of work.
yeah. Wow.
So, yeah. So
Remember,
there,
we had a case where the guy cut his mom's head off and boiled it.
oh
So
yeah, I
Oh
remember
yeah, yeah,
that. Oh, that was
that
yeah.
in
was
That
like
was
season one. I
that was
remember
definitely
that.
personal.
very
Yeah.
personal. So when I was doing research on that, they said 9 times out of 10 that person really is like someone close to them, family wise, most times.
Right. And they said that the killers also made sure to place towels around Russell's body so the blood wouldn't seep under the garage door and into the driveway. But
Ooh.
again, Russell's head was never found, and there were never any suspects arrested or
Hmm.
brought to justice for these murders. So there have been so many stories and theories circulating around as to what may have happened to the Dermonds. Some suspect the murders were a mob hit, but the police chief at the time said he didn't believe that theory, and he felt like it was less likely a scenario since Russell nor Shirley were in any type of witness protection program. There was also speculation early on that perhaps Shirley had been kidnapped and maybe this was a situation where she was being held for ransom, but they haven't really been able to substantiate any leads, determining such. Another theory that surfaced during the time that Shirley was missing was speculation that she murdered her own husband.
Oh
But
my
remember, these
goodness.
folks were in their late 80s.
Yeah,
So,
like yeah,
yeah, so I
highly
personally never
unlikely.
thought that that was a theory that was going to be true. I was like, nah, she didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Investigators did admit that this level of crime is something you would see from a Mexican drug cartel, but their victims are rarely grandparents that have no known enemies. So they don't fit the bill for a couple that would have been a victim of the Mexican drug cartel. There was also speculation that this could have been the work of an old business associate or perhaps a former disgruntled employee, but again, there were no leads to substantiate any of that. Investigators do agree that these crimes were most likely committed by what one would call a, quote, seasoned criminal due to the nature of the crime. And something such as a decapitation is extremely rare, but also very personal, as we were just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever committed the crime didn't care if Russell's body was found, but they went through great lengths to make sure his head and Shirley's body were never found. All three of the Dermonds' adult children have cooperated with the investigation. They were all interviewed and cleared from having anything to do with the crimes. All three of them took polygraph tests and all three of them passed. And like I mentioned before, the Dermonds did have another child, a third son. He passed away back in 2000 while attempting to buy drugs in Atlanta.
Oh
Investigators
wow.
even Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Investigators even consider if that situation may have had something to do with the murders, but the person who murdered him is still behind bars, and investigators determined that those two crimes are not connected. Sheriff Sills brought in everybody except the GBI to assist with investigating the case. They had approximately 70 deputies from several neighboring sheriff offices. They had 10 or more FBI agents helping with the case. Sheriff Sills said he has done some level of investigative work on that case nearly every day since it happened. He said new technology allows them to revisit the evidence and re-examine certain aspects of the case. The sheriff said this case has baffled him more than any other murder during his career, but he has promised the citizens of Putnam County that he is going to solve that case one day. And the people of Eatonton believe in him, and they are confident that this case will be solved. Anyone with information about this unsolved double murder should call the Putnam County Sheriff's Office at 706-485-8557 or leave a tip via the website at putnamcountysheriff.org.
It just seems so random, like because we don't have the information on like why, but it just seems so
Exactly.
random. Just an
Right.
elderly couple, and then you do this
I
to
wonder
them.
if the
It's
kids are
something.
included in an insurance policy.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation with all of that. And that was one reason why I pointed out that the kids took the lie detector test, which, sometimes lie detector tests hold up in court, sometimes they don't. But I just pointed all that
Some
out
people know how to
because
manipulate those things. Some
that part
people,
too.
if
And that's
they
why they don't
get
always hold up in
small,
court.
right?
That is so true. And I think a lot of people were kind of suspecting the children, and that's why I said, let me make sure I put that out here about the kids. I have a relative that works for the FBI in the forensic department, and we were talking about this case when I decided to write up on it. And one thing that she pointed out to me was that over the years, there's always focus on fingerprints, handprints, and some other evidence, blood evidence, DNA. But she said, but there's less evidence focused on footprints. And one thing she said about this case, because she didn't work it, she wasn't out there, but she said, I wonder if they looked for or noticed any footprints on the property, on or around the property, when they started to investigate this case. So that's something that stood out to me a little bit, just talking to somebody else about the
With all
case.
the blood that could have splattered or been around.
Well, no, they said they didn't have blood, right?
They didn't have a lot of blood at the scene, is what they said.
Okay.
They said they had blood at the scene, but it wasn't enough to make them think they were killed there. That was what stood out.
But if you're that close to a body, somebody got a shoe print.
Well, I thought about, the dirt, because they lived near like I said, their house backed up to the lake. So if they did pull up by boat, and boat docks, some of them are concrete, but some of them do have some dirt along the side. So I don't know how theirs was made, but I just thought about that. Like, man, there probably was some footprints leading up to the house. They had to walk through the backyard, and there's a lot involved in that. So I did make a note of just some things that stood out to me that I want to share with you ladies. My question is, how did a boat supposedly sneak up on this house in the middle of the night, and where did the boat dock from? Like somebody had to have gotten into the water at some point. So I wonder, did investigators examine all the boat docks within a certain mile radius from the home when they suspected murderers arrived by boat? Like, how soon into the investigation did they make that conclusion, and did they examine all the docks? Also, I was wondering, how common is night fishing in that area? Because I find it real hard to believe that nobody saw a boat in the water that night and didn't take note of, maybe some strange activity happening. So I've gone night fishing, and there's usually some houses, or at least a house or two, that is backed up to the lake. So I'm not sure how property is divided when people share a lake, whether you can say, hey, get off my property, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I don't know how that works, but I just find it real hard to believe that in 2014, nobody had cameras in the backyard, like facing the lake. So that was something that stood out to me. And then also, I was wondering if investigators reviewed surveillance footage, not only from other houses, but businesses in the area.
But they probably get one murder a year.
Exactly. If that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was kind of wondering, like, did they examine like the store camera footage out there? Yeah, it's a lot going on with this case, but like I say, it's definitely one that when I think about like who killed Biggie, who killed Tupac,
you put them in this.
I did. Yeah, the John Bonet case. This is one of those that I just will never forget. And then when I see the picture of this couple, it's like, just look at them like, man, they were just living their lives. I mean, you never know what's going on with people behind closed doors, right?
That's true.
But
because clearly it's something.
The picture was just like they were just living their lives, and they weren't bothering nobody, weren't out here doing anything bad.
I wonder if I'm sorry, I'm Inspector Gadget. I wonder if somebody wanted to buy their property, and that.
Would you go to that extreme?
Some people, I've heard some horror stories over real estate.
To buy it, to cut their head off and take it with you, or take it.
If people want to get your property, they'll go to some extremes. But I don't know. That's just a neighbor. Nobody. How close is the neighbor? Like, how close are your neighbors?
So with the pictures of their home, I didn't see a whole bunch of different pictures, so it really focused on their house. So I'm not sure how far apart the neighbors are. But like I said, it was a gated community.
Had to been awakened by something. I don't know. This is just weird.
I didn't even think of anything about a sale on a property or someone wanting the property, but I definitely thought about the possibility of a neighbor because, again, like you're pulling up to somebody's backyard in a boat, and the only thing that I would feel like would make it not suspicious is if it was a boat that they knew. Like, oh, that's old Joe in the backyard night fishing. I don't know. I mean, but it is the strangest case though. It really is a strange, and maybe because
I hope it gets solved because that is evil.
It is. It is beyond.
And what year
evil.
was this?
This was 2014.
14. Okay.
Yeah, May 2014. So
I remember that case, but I don't think they had any updates since then. But I remember hearing about it.
Exactly.
I think the update was when they found the body, when they found the wife's body.
Yeah, there haven't been any updates. And then the sheriff says, oh, we're looking at new evidence every year, but he doesn't really go into specifics. So some people speculate there is no new evidence, and he's just saying that just to give people hope, you know, but I guess that's all debatable. But anyway, ladies and sippers, I usually say it's time to close the book, but in this case, the book will remain open until this case gets solved.
Right.
It's been 8 years already, so I hope the family members and friends of the Dermonds will get the answers that they are looking for.
Yeah.
Wow. So moving on to the next segment, I have a missing persons case that I would like to discuss.
Okay. We haven't done one of those in a while.
So today's case is going to highlight the case of Tiffany Foster, a mother who has been missing from Coweta County, Georgia. Let me just note that her fiance, Reginald Robertson, has been a person of interest since day one. So according to public information, Tiffany was last seen leaving her home at the Lakeside Apartments in Newnan, Georgia on March 1st, 2021. Family members say the 35-year-old was on her way to the grocery store, but they're not sure as to whether she made it there or not. Tiffany failed to show up for her college classes on March 2nd. And she also didn't show up to work on March 5th. On March 8th, Tiffany's 2020 Nissan Altima was found 30 miles from her home. Some of her belongings, including her purse and keys, were also found inside the car. On March 11th, Tiffany missed a planned flight out to the state of Texas, and that's when Tiffany's family was really alarmed. Tiffany's family says that she's a devoted mother who recently was engaged. They added that it wasn't like Tiffany to miss work or class at Georgia Military College, where she had been studying criminal justice. More importantly, they said she would never have abandoned her children. Family members said it's like a tornado just flipped their lives upside down. But while investigating Tiffany's disappearance, investigators discovered evidence of a previous incident that had occurred in November 2020. Reginald Robertson allegedly kidnapped her and was charged with aggravated assault in reference to that disappearance. They arrested him, even though it was months after the kidnapping, and they had him in jail for a minute, but there really wasn't enough evidence to charge him with any crime. Now, one thing that's suspicious about Tiffany's fiance is that he has invoked his Fifth Amendment right. The family is still pleading with the public for any information of the whereabouts of Tiffany Foster. There's a $60,000 reward for anyone who helps solve the case. She's about 5'2" tall.
Yeah.
220 pounds. Tiffany is 35 years old.
Oh, okay.
So she's in her mid-30s, young, and they just don't feel like she has reason to just abandon her family all of a sudden. So anyone with information about Tiffany's whereabouts, they're asked to call the Coweta County Sheriff's Office at 770-253-1502. And again, I'll post more detailed information on our social media pages for any of you sippers who want to see pictures of Tiffany and also more details regarding her disappearance. So sad. All right, so the last segment that I have, ladies and sippers, y'all might have actually heard this. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I'm going to go ahead and read an article from the USA Today for today's spilled wine. Geico has been ordered to pay $5.2 million in damages to a woman who contracted a sexually transmitted disease in the insured vehicle of her then boyfriend.
Well, I heard about this. Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay.
$5.2 million. On Tuesday, which this article is dated June 10th, so this is a couple months ago, the article was written, but I believe it all transpired and started happening earlier this year. But on Tuesday, the Missouri Court of Appeals Western District published an opinion in favor of the woman who alleged that she contracted HPV during a sexual encounter in the insured's vehicle back in 2017. HPV HPV, also known as the human papillomavirus, can spread through direct sexual contact and causes warts. In short, negligently caused or contributed to cause MO to be infected with HPV by not taking proper precautions and neglecting to inform and or disclose his diagnosis, despite having knowledge of his condition. Her then boyfriend's car insurance policy covered her injuries and losses in a claim in 2021, and she took matters to an arbitrator who found the insured negligently infected MO with HPV and awarded her $5.2 million in damages. So she waited 4 years to file the claim. I wonder if she was doing research.
She didn't get it from the car.
She didn't, but that ruled in her favor and confirmed the judgment of $5.2 million in damages for past and future medical expenses, as well as past and future mental and physical pain and suffering. Geico appealed the judgment, claiming they were not giving meaningful opportunity to defend its interests, but Geico did have the opportunity to participate, including the ability to challenge liability and damages by entering a defense of the insured. So the USA Today has reached out to the attorneys for both Geico and the woman, but they didn't immediately hear back. The appeals court also found that Geico did not have the right to relitigate the issues after the award has been affirmed. In a statement to CBS Money Watch, Geico said, "The question of whether there is coverage for this matter will be determined." So it looks like we haven't heard the end of that case. But what y'all think about that?
Man,
Hey.
I'm just thinking about so much money that she can get, that she got.
Right.
I'm trying to think of stuff that I can do to, like, because that sounds like a
But how
come
did
up.
you get it? Why are you suing the car insurance?
That's what I'm saying.
Clearly, there must have been some clause that she found that says, while something happens in this car, maybe it's a bodily injury clause, because if there was an accident, she would receive money due to bodily injury. It wasn't an accident, of course, because they were in the car having sex, but there was some type of bodily injury that happened while she was in that car.
So you're not suing the boyfriend or whomever.
It doesn't say that she did. Now, she could have sued him, right? But it doesn't say that she did or did not.
Well, he
But
probably
it's
didn't have any
crazy.
money, so that's probably why she didn't.
So she went for the car insurance.
He might not have had 5.2
He ain't
million.
had that kind of money, so I mean, you go after the people with the money, but dang. That's
And
a
I was
lot,
wondering,
man.
how do you come up with that number of 5.2 million? Because HPV, is that a curable?
It
Can
is.
you get rid of
It
that?
can go away.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then they're
It's
saying
something goes
future medical bills, but what medical bills will she have if you can get rid of HPV?
Well, some people it goes away, other people it don't. Some people it can cause cancer in it.
Cervical
so, yeah.
cancer or something like that?
Yeah. So I know that's why they have those vaccination thing for that.
I
Oh,
was
yeah.
just baffled.
So she must have got an even worse. I wouldn't say she had
Right.
cancer or not from it, or
And for her to determine that he knew he had it, I wonder what kind of conversation they had, or
Right.
whether they exchanged text messages. Like, how did she say and know for sure, oh, he knew he had it, that's why I'm suing? So that really tripped me out, because I mean, I've just never thought about
I
suing
wouldn't even think
anyone
like that
for
wouldn't
bodily
be on
injury
my
unless it
mind.
was an accident.
Yeah.
But
And
having
she got
sex
paid.
in the car and getting an
Let
STD,
me read through my policies. Let me make sure.
I know, right? And see what we can pull up out of here. 'Cause
because that
like-
takes full coverage to a whole nother level, right?
It might be like the fine print way at the bottom. I wonder if that's where her lawyer went into, or took the definition, like Martia said, bodily injury to a whole new level.
Right,
Wow.
exactly. So yeah, that's my spill the wine for today. I had to share that. I figured you guys might have heard it or whatever, but I had to share that because it really tripped me out when I first read the article. I thought it was a joke, but it wasn't. Oh, girl walked away with a clean $5 million. Now, has she gotten paid? I wonder about that, because Geico is basically saying, "Oh no, this is not going to slide with us." They're still,
so they're appealing it and all that.
That's what it said at the end of the article.
Oh, okay, so she ain't got nothing yet.
They can't appeal it in that same court that she won, but I guess some kind of other way they're trying to appeal that ruling. So
That is, because you know what? How many other people would come for them if this gets approved, or the judgment is in the favor of her? Oh man,
exactly. Because until now, I had only heard of people suing the person that allegedly gave them the disease. Like we saw the Usher case years ago, where the girl was alleging that he gave her herpes and she sued him. And R. Kelly in a situation like that too, where somebody wanted to sue him for giving them STD. So I've never heard of, like, if someone gives you an STD in their house, can you sue the homeowner's insurance?
Wait a minute now. Wait a minute.
Can you sue the apartment insurance that's covering the apartment if you get an STD? You know, so those are the questions that I had. Like, people get STDs every single day in numerous of settings. So are they going to start suing
I
for
know. And the
that?
theater, like when people
Right.
they
We're going to sue building insurance
right.
because I had sex in the theater and came up with something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what are the limits on that? That's crazy, right?
I don't know, but I need to find some stuff that happened to me and see if I can.
Because she sure waited
Man,
4 years to put that
I
lawsuit out
know.
there.
Like,
So I don't know what the statute of
Right.
limitations
I was
is.
walking through the mall. I tripped over the block.
I mean, that does open the door
yeah.
for so many other cases to stem from just that one example. People are going to go crazy. Anyway, ladies, all of that we discussed, the main case, the unsolved and unusual, the missing persons case, and also this little spill of wine that we just shared, all of those things have
This was a good
brought us to this
episode.
point, which is our conclusion.
Oh.
It's the
Well, this was a good
end.
episode. Yeah.
Right.
Why did we get an
It
update on
was.
that first case though? Because
Right.
gosh,
I
I
know
actually
some
really
the
forgot all
elderly
about it, but I remember it.
people.
It was so crazy.
Yes, it
So crazy.
was.
Like, I just want to know, like, what was the connection? Who did it? Like, like, what was the reason?
Exactly.
Because it had to be like a big reason behind doing all that.
You would
Like
think.
something.
You would think.
So sad.
Yeah.
Like maybe if he was in the mob way back in the day or something, and then they finally caught up to him because he was hiding out. And then
Wow.
you know what I'm
I think
saying?
that was
Like,
more personal. That was up.
that's what I'm
close
saying. But
personal.
even
That would
that's
be.
personal. I'm saying that
Yeah,
they
that
went
would
and
be
found
personal.
him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a long time to go wait to get revenge on
Well,
somebody.
no, I'm saying they probably found them.
Like
Oh.
y'all call yourself moving out here to this little small town.
Mhm.
Y'all originally from
Aw.
New York, New
Some stuff
Jersey.
back in
We
the
found
day.
y'all.
Yeah.
But
Aw.
man,
No.
and I ain't trying to be funny though, with them being like 87 and 88, you
Right.
would have still been around from years back
Mhm.
to carry out a grudge. But I know we say we're in this sippers, but let me just say this, because we're well versed on a lot of these different true crime shows and podcasts or whatever. So that show Unusual Suspects, it's usually like the most unusual person that they least suspect that commits these type of crimes.
Right. Something that you'll never think about. You're just like,
Exactly.
what? Wait a minute. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said too, could have been a neighbor. Somebody disgruntled. Like, y'all always out here in these streets. Everybody love y'all. I'm sick of you. Da 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 da.
Right.
And then Demetrius, somebody wanted that property. Who owns that house now?
Mm-hmm.
Who owns
Right.
that
Yeah,
house
when they go
now?
to the kids though. So
Who did
I
it
don't
go
know.
down to?
Maybe it did. Who knows?
Right.
But hopefully they'll get some answers soon. All right, ladies. Well, this brings us to the end. So, sippers, if you're listening all the way up to this point, make sure you follow us. Make sure you share our content with all your friends. Make sure you check for us every Tuesday when we post brand new episodes. True Crime Tuesday is our favorite day of the week around these parts. So, until next time, ladies and sippers, have a good one, y'all.
Oh, bye, sippers. Bye, ladies.
Bye, ladies. Bye, sippers.
Bye.
Ooh, child.
That was good. But I think that was
They
good.
didn't steal anything.
Oh my God.
I think the dog believes that too.
Exactly. The dog
No,
agreed.
say your part over. Hold on, finna hit mute.
It's the part where she said she put the dog up for me.
The dog said, "No, I
He
ain't."
escaped. He said, you're not leaving me out.
You thought.
Okay, do it over, Renee. I'm sorry. I
don't know what
apologize,
What
y'all.
was I saying? Oh shit.
Let me start this because I think you were talking about the intruders. Speculation is that Russell.
No, start over.
Count me down.
3, 2, 1.